you? All three reached hands around to behind themselves. They grabbed hold of kunai heats. They grabbed hold of kunai hilts. Itachi stared at the older students, his own arms hanging loosely at his sides. If it came to that, he intended to get through this with a substitution technique that made use of cloning. His substitution technique was unconventional. Normally, the ninjas switched out their own body for a log with a tag attached immediately before an attack, in order to confuse their opponent. But rather than a log, Itachi's version used countless crows. He had come up with the idea when he was training with Shisui, and saw a flock of crows flying in the dense woods. If you used the usual log, the confusion effect on your opponent was meager. But the instant you switched out for crows, they flew off in all directions. So your opponent was surprised and bewildered, generating an opening that wasn't even on the same level as with the log. This was the first time he had tested it in an actual fight. Will it work? He planned to do it when one of the three thrust a kunai into Itachi's body. All four were taking shallow breaths. Both Itachi and Tenma and his gang were watching every move the other made. A tense silence rolled down the hallway. "Stop it!" The high-pitched shout of a girl shattered the quiet. Izumi appeared in front of Itachi. With both hands raised up high, she faced the older students. "I'm Uchiha too, but I have no intention of apologizing to you. I mean, it wasn't the Uchiha clan who summoned the Nine Tails." Tenma and his gang were taken aback at this sudden development. The Uchiha clan lives in the village too. People we care about died in that whole thing. That's why. Even from behind, Itachi could tell she was moved to tears. Whoever did it isn't Uchiha. "Out of the way," Tenma said with a grim look. "I'm not moving," Izumi shouted firmly. "Then you're also gonna." As he glared at Izumi, the look on Tenma's face changed suddenly. "Hey, look at that." Katsura put a hand on Tenma's shoulder and pointed at Izumi's face with his free hand. "It's the Sharingan," Hagiri muttered, his fear showing. "Let's get out of here," Tenma said, and the three turned and ran. "You alright?" Izumi turned to face him, round eyes burning a bright red. In the center of them, small circles floated up with patterns like kama-shaped Magatama jewels on them. The most powerful visual technique passed down through the Uchiha clan, the Sharingan. "Sorry for butting in," Izumi said, smiling, and the strength ran out of her body. Itachi ran over and caught her by the shoulders. Izumi passed out. It wasn't until after school that Izumi regained consciousness in the bed in the nurse's room. No sooner had she woken up than she was smiling, somewhat embarrassed, at Itachi, who had been by her side since classes ended for the day. "You didn't need me to butt in. I'm sorry," Izumi apologized, red all the way to the tips of her ears. "I didn't need you to?" "Well, I mean, you are Itachi. Someone like me's just in the way, right? You actually saved me." Maybe it was just like she said, but thanks to her eyes, the three older students had fled without doing anything. When I get mad, I get those eyes without even knowing it. How did you activate it? Itachi still hadn't activated the Sharingan. Apparently the trigger was in the heart somehow, but even Shisui wouldn't teach him about it. Given that he had gone beyond the average ninja to master basically every skill, the fact that he hadn't awakened the Sharingan was a hard truth to bear. Izumi did it. He wanted to know how. "My dad died in Nine Tails' attack." This was the first he'd heard of that. Izumi's father would have been a member of the Uchiha clan, in which case there was a strong possibility that he had worked under Itachi's father. But Itachi hadn't heard anything about any of his father's subordinates being killed in the line of duty. "Oh, my dad's not an Uchiha. My mom's Uchiha. After my dad died, we came back to the clan, and I became an Uchiha. I became an Uchiha too," Izumi told him as if reading his mind. Is there a connection between your father's death and the Sharingan? Yeah, Izumi sighed and met Itachi's eyes. Her own had returned to normal. I was there with my dad when he died. He died right in front of me. He was protecting me, so I... Tears ran down her cheeks. It was like if I just had more power, my dad wouldn't have had to die. During the funeral and the whole time after that, I blamed myself. If only I had more power, I said. Looking as though she couldn't stand it, Izumi lowered her face, and then suddenly something started throbbing inside my eyes. My chakra gradually collected there, and I fainted. When I woke up, my mom told me it was the Sharingan. I'm sorry to make you remember something so painful. No, it's all right. Don't worry about it, she smiled. He reached out his right hand. Confused, Izumi tilted her head to one side. He waited wordlessly until she pulled a slender hand out from under the blanket and slowly lifted it up. He grabbed into her pale palm. Thanks. Izumi smiled slightly. Danzo tossed the white file onto the desk and looked at the subordinate standing before him, wearing a white tiger mask. Red shading stretched out to the sides from around the eye holes, slanted upwards as if expressing anger. Uchiha Itachi, The photo attached to the file showed the face of a still young boy. The eyes that stared back at Danzo, however, contained a strength that belied their owner's age. All involved assert that the Academy has never before witnessed such genius. He completed the graduation examination 4 months after he commenced his studies, and he is scheduled to graduate in the springtime of the next year. His gaze still on the file, Danzo listened to the excessive formality of his subordinate, and he smiled across his lips. I can just see the different departments fighting to get him. Yes. Danzo lifted his weary hips from the chair, as the shadow behind the third Hokage. He had carried the burden of the village's darkness, but recently he had felt bitterly the weight of his own body. He wasn't so old that he knew death was upon him, but he was of an age to start thinking about his own life and the length of it. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, he would certainly die. And there was something he had to do before that happened. Cutting out the root of the evil that had been growing since the birth of the village of Konagakure was Danzo's life's work. A prodigy not yet colored by anything. Danzo turned his gaze to the darkness visible beyond the window. The black void had fallen deathly silent, as if devouring the fleeting peace. For men who lived in times of war, the night, with its swirling air of murder, was something yearned for. Well, let's meet him first, And that's the end of Section 3 of Chapter 1 in Itachi Shinden. I'll be back most likely tomorrow to do some more reading, so hopefully the one person who was listening to this enjoyed it. And I will see you later. Bye.